What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Tastes Like Music 1969 week. We've got our top 25 albums of 1969 out. If you haven't seen that video, go check it out. And today we are talking about our favorite songs of the year. So we're just going to go back and forth, rattle off the songs and why we like them. And you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I'll start. My number 25 is going to be one from a band that had three albums. None of them made my list because, well, they all had great songs on them. There's just too many albums. If they jammed all the good songs on one album, it'd be a masterpiece. But I'm going to go with Effigy, maybe a little off the board from Creedence Clearwater Revival. Fogerty's just ripping through this one. Some of his best guitar work. It's the final track from Willie and the Poor Boys. Just incendiary, ferocious, scary tune from a band that, sometimes gets a little too laid back, rolling on the river there. Not here. This is chilling stuff.
My number 25 is Maybe Tomorrow by the Ivies, which is an early version of a band called Badfinger. They would change their name within a year or so. Great harmonies on this, really cool strings, incredible lead vocal performance from Tom Evans. Yeah, just really cool.
Interesting. Okay. I've not heard of that one. Wasn't on my radar at all. I'm gonna go with the song, a new discovery of mine, Move with the Dawn by Mark Eric. This bad boy, it's kind of, you can see the Brian Wilson influence. You can see the Mamas and the Papas influence. It's ornate, lush, California pop. This one has a little chill to it. A really nice biting guitar line that runs through the song. A little more melancholy. I guess it is like Brian Wilson, but with a guitar. But I love the horns, and it's a cool tune from Mark Eric. Hard to find. I think it's the only song from that album that's available on Spotify.
24 for me is Your Gentle Way of Loving Me by the Byrds. Graham Parsons had moved on from the Byrds at this point, but he had left his mark on the band. So this is still kind of in country rock territory. I think it's great. Clarence White, the Clarence White era of the band, I love. I think he's a phenomenal and super underrated guitarist.
I forgot to listen to any of the Byrds albums from this year. Kind of just forget about them after 1968. My number 23 is going to be Both Sides Now from Joni Mitchell. Song that needs no introduction, really. I think the lyrics are brilliant. I love her imagery, her allegories, and her metaphors, and her innovative guitar playing is fantastic. Keeps the whole track easy and nice.
23 for me is I Guess the Lord Must Be in New York City by Harry Nilsson. Written for the movie Midnight Cowboy, but the director of that film decided to keep Everybody's Talking, which he was using as a placeholder, in its place. This song still had some pretty decent success, though. Went to number 34 on the charts. It was his second hit in the US. So, yeah, that's a good one. I love the banjo on there.
My number 22 from the supergroup Blind Faith. I'm going to go with Can't Find My Way Home. And I've ever since I heard this song, just fallen in love with the mandolin. I think it was one of my first like big mandolin songs. Love the mandolin ever since. Stevie Winwood's lead vocals ain't too shabby either. And Eric Clapton and Ginger Baker and Rick Greach are all pretty good too.
So, the last couple years that we've deep dove, I've kept my songs list to one song per artist, but I just could not this year. There's a couple that have just too many killer songs. So you're going to see a few from this group. I've got Laughing by the Guess Who at number 22. The super underrated Burton Cummings on vocals. I love the arrangement. The bass line is awesome. Excellent background vocals on this track. Super memorable chorus. Just an all around piece of pop craft and perfection.
Never would have guessed that the Guess Who would be the band to break your one song per year rule.
They're one of a couple in this
Couple.
year. So
Well, it's weird because I've basically went the complete opposite way. Whereas Prince had like 12 songs on my top 25 of 84. Pretty close to the one per artist on this one. including only one from Tommy James and the Shondells. But I'm going with Sweet Cherry Wine, which I think I don't know if I heard it before doing this deep dive. Kind of a forgotten pop tune. It came in between Crimson and Clover and Crystal Blue Persuasion, two pretty big hits. But this one went to number 10, and I mean I can see why it's an earworm, but it also has a great anti-war message. Gets you a pop song that can do both.
21 for me is Just a Little Lovin' by Dusty Springfield. Just understated, brilliant vocal. One of the most confident singers that, I've ever heard, except for the story that she, in fact, wasn't and couldn't even sing in front of the musicians that played on the record. So it's just an amazing performance, though.
My number 20, forget Smoke on the Water. As far as I'm concerned, this is the riff, and that is Cinnamon Girl by Neil Young. It is just, it's so simple, and yet it's indelible, it's timeless. It's got that great fuzz. This song, like you could drop this song into 1992 and people like wouldn't be like, oh yeah, this totally fits. Super ahead of the time. He invented grunge after all, and this is one of the, the first grunge songs. Love the solo. Just a really great, simple tune from Neil Young.
Number 20, I have The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down by the band. Everything I love about the band on this track. Great example of Robbie Robertson's unique style of writing, and each member of the band brings so much to the table on this track. Just, they're all killing it.
My number 19, we go with the very first song from the Jackson 5, the first single, I guess, the first big single, I Want You Back, which is just one of the best chord progressions known to man. It's so catchy. The whole song feels years ahead of the curve. I love those comping guitars, that lead bass line from Wilton Felder, the nimble, ever-switching vocals from the Jacksons, especially some kid named Michael Jackson who could be a star someday. Better watch him. It's just one of those tunes, it's so well put together.
Number 19 for me is Seems I'm Never Tired Lovin' You by Nina Simone. It opens up her record, Nina Simone and piano. It's almost indescribable, just what a force she is on this track. Solo piano and voice, and that's enough to just convey everything. She's just tearing up the piano, singing her ass off, and it's amazing.
My number 18, gotta get some Scott Walker on here. I'm gonna go. There was like eight different songs that I was considering for Mr. Walker for this year. Two great albums, Scott 3, Scott 4, both made my albums list, but only represented once here, and I just chose the song that I currently can't get enough of, and that is Get Behind Me from Scott 4. And there's something about this one. It kind of starts folky, switches over to this bustling rocker in the chorus, where it has just one of the greatest bass line, just little bass line runs that I think I've ever heard. It's, I don't know. As soon as I heard it, I was like, okay, I got to know who plays bass on this track. And there's no information anywhere. I looked at forums and Reddit and Steve Hoffman, forums.net, and nobody seems to know. It could be Scott Walker or some session guy, but the whole album has incredible bass playing. So I really want to know who does this one because it's just immaculate.
Number 18 for me is Where Do You Go To My Lovely by Peter Sarstedt. It is like Wes Anderson movies in a song. It's actually in a Wes Anderson movie. It's in the Darjeeling Limited, which is the first place I heard it, but it is like inextricably linked to the Wes Anderson aesthetic in my mind. It's got like this accordion and it's super European sounding and referencing Marlene Dietrich and ZZ Jamais, Picasso, the Rolling Stones. It's just, I don't know. It's a really cool song. Catchy, fun, different kind of vibe.
My number 17, I'm going to go with Isaac Hayes, Walk Away, which I just think it's one of the most transformative covers I think I've heard, maybe ever. turning, a brilliant little but slight pop song into an epic soul funk odyssey of 12 plus minutes. The core of the song remains, but it's lifted by some gorgeous string arrangements, Hayes's heartfelt delivery, and then kind of transitions into this funky jam session where the organ and the guitars are kind of battling back and forth for, 5, 6 minutes, but it never gets boring, which is an impressive feat.
Number 17, I have Cold Lady by Humble Pie. Just this song has such a cool swagger to it. It's got some really awesome Wurlitzer played by the drummer Jerry Shirley. Steve Marriott gives a super soulful vocal performance on this, as he always does. Yeah, just a rock band with a lot of attitude and confidence, and yeah, super cool.
My number 16, I'm gonna go with one from the Kinks, Arthur, which didn't make my albums list. I think people will be upset about that once they figure it out. But I'm going with Shangri-La, favorite song from the album. Just a really good, incisive, lyrical gem from Ray Davies. Just a superb takedown of, culture and capitalism. And, it's one of the, it's a great story song, kind of making fun of this. I guess his name is Arthur, the protagonist of the story, and his pathetic existence collecting meaningless things to try and disguise the fact that his life is empty. And, his Shangri-La is a TV, a radio, things he can buy. Great lyrics, fantastic lyrics. Musically, just as brilliant. Multitude of instruments, the horns, harpsichord, great vocal harmonies, a bunch of different sections, bridges, and just all the stuff that comes together perfectly.
16 for me, going back to the Guess Who, These Eyes from Wheatfield Soul hooks me the second it starts. That electric piano sounds so good. And then the bass line comes in. I love the strings, which are so lush. Also linked to a movie. It's got that incredible scene in Superbad, which is so good. But unlike the Peter Sarstedt song, I knew and loved this one long before I ever saw Superbad, so it's not quite as linked. But either way, incredible song.
That was the first time I had ever heard that song. I didn't know it was a real song even. Uh,
Wow.
but yeah, I'd never heard it on the radio or anything. But as soon as I heard it on Superbad, I looked it up and I was like, okay, Guess Who? Canadian. That makes sense. My number 15, I'm gonna go with California Soul from Marlena Shaw. A couple different versions of this tune. I think Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell do one from this year or something like that. Somebody, a bunch of them. But this is the definitive version for sure. Her lead vocals ooze confidence. I love the arrangement, rapacious strings, the hand claps, the horns, the backing female chorus. All adds a sparkling joy to it all. Just a tune that's as vibrant as the California coast.
15 for me is Something by the Beatles. Excellent songwriting. George really bringing his A game on Abbey Road. The rhythm section is amazing. One of Paul and Ringo's like greatest joint performances. The two of them are just locked in and amazing on this track. And it's got my favorite guitar solo of all time in George's. Those bends are just perfect. The phrasing is so good.
And it's only at 15. Better be 14 really friggin' great tracks ahead of it. 14 for me, I got Touch Me from The Doors. The Doors doing, something a little different. It's got some strings and some horns and a little Baroque pop and orchestration. It's great. I love this version of The Doors, and Touch Me probably the pinnacle of this very brief period. Underneath it all, some cool country licks from Robbie Krieger that I noticed this listen, this month, year, 6 months, however long we've been doing the 69 deep dive. And I like the little jazzy outro. That sax, wailing away is pretty cool.
14 for me is The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face by Roberta Flack. Just a masterful vocal, quiet confidence. It's crazy how restrained and slow it is, but it commands your attention the entire way through. It's kind of incredible. And, you know, I am a big proponent of new music and staying up to date on music and not just falling back on classics. So I don't want to, be too harsh on the current state of things, but it does make me long for an era where something this slow and quiet could even possibly entertain the idea of being a hit. Yeah, for something like this to be as big as it was is amazing.
My number 13, I'm gonna go with Rod Stewart's Handbags and Glad Rags. Written by Mike D'Abo of Manfred Mann, actually. Kind of interesting that he would write a song this good and incisive. Another Happiness Isn't Things You Can Buy type song, sung superbly by Rod, who sounds like he's, got the wizened wisdom to tell a teenage girl that life is more than your possessions, despite his being like 20 years old. But he's got that old soul, that old school vocal that makes him seem a little older. And he can pull off a song like this quite easily. Great orchestration, great arrangements here, arranged by Mike Diabo of Man for Man, especially the oboe. And Diabo also plays piano here, and some great bass as well.
Yeah, that's a good song. 13, I have Time Has Told Me by Nick Drake. The opening track from his record, Five Leaves Left. Got Richard Thompson on guitar, Danny Thompson on bass. It's a pretty simple track and arrangement. Keeps Nick's vocals front and center. Sounds amazing. Probably the highlight of that record for me.
Number 12, Honky Tonk Women, Rolling Stones. Love the guitar. I love the simplicity of the drum and the rhythm section. Love how it opens on that cowbell beat. I love the lyrics. The "She blew my nose and she blew my mind" is just one of the great lines in the history of rock and roll. And you got, I don't know if this was the first track that Mick Taylor was on, but he was finally officially in the band, playing some really great, luscious fills on it. Just a fantastic, upbeat, kind of party country song.
Number 12, I've got Hot Burrito Number One by the Flying Burrito Brothers. This one is about Graham's breakup with his wife Nancy. Very heartfelt song, and for me, the essential Graham Parsons song and vocal performance. And yeah, for a song called Hot Burrito Number One, it is quite emotional.
They weren't the best namers of songs because Hot Burrito number two, also a fantastic song, but probably should have named it something different. My number 11, also a hot song. I got Hot Fun in the Summertime from Sly and the Family Stone, one of the singles from their greatest hits album, not on Stand, but just such a fun song. It's summery. It's got great, you know, upbeat vibes. Got that really great rising chord progression between the verses. That just like little added touch of strings that kind of just lift everything up. And I love the little interlude part where they all take a verse, so all take a couple lines. You got the high, the female, and then you got the real low singer, and you got Sly, and it's just a really, really fun song.
Number 11, I have Tonight I'll Be Staying Here With You by Bob Dylan. Closing track from Nashville Skyline, the third single. The band really gelling well on this track, and Dylan's new vocal croon sounds awesome on this track, and just like the phrasing and the words he's using really let him lean into it, and I think it just sounds kind of badass. Also, side note, love the version from the Rolling Thunder Review um, bootleg series. Probably even more incredible than this version, but still, this version good enough for number 11.
Number 10 for me, another single. I put these songs in odd order. I've the third single in a row that was not on any album. It's interesting. The Green Manalishi with the two-pronged crown from Fleetwood Mac, which is such a scary track. Peter Green's Tour de Force, the last song he wrote while he was in Fleetwood Mac before he went insane and ran off and did whatever. Proto metal, really heavy, incredible guitar tone on Green and Danny Kerwin's guitars. The wailing from Green during like the outro part is like really just kind of freaky and ominous, and it's like scary almost the way he sounds, especially when you consider that he kind of went insane. It feels real. It really does. Future new wave of British heavy metal guru Martin Birch was an engineer on this track and possibly mixed it as well, which a lot of Iron Maiden, and you can hear that Judas Priest later on, all this kind of sound for sure. Priest would cover it later. Just a phenomenal song. Love Mick Fleetwood drumming on it as well. Real ominous and powerful.
Number 10, back to the Guess Who for Undone. Not their last. Yeah, this one's really different from their other singles this year. Super jazzy chords, and Burton Cummings breaks out the flute. It's just like this really kind of hip, sophisticated pop sound. Yeah, love it.
Number nine, I don't even need to talk about this track because everybody knows it. Space Oddity, David Bowie. Everyone knows what it sounds like. I mean, there's nothing that I can say about it to describe it. It's just a brilliant, his first true masterpiece.
Number 9, I've got Because by the Beatles. Triple tracked, three-part harmony. So you got nine voices, and the chords are essentially Moonlight Sonata in reverse, which doesn't really matter. It's just kind of a fun fact, and it just sounds so amazing. I think in all the discussion of Beatles, you know, everyone talked about the Beatles to death. I don't think it comes up enough how good of harmony singers they all were. Just the harmony sound phenomenal. And it's hard to believe it's from 69. Just the way it's mixed, it just sounds so full and yeah, leagues above most other recordings.
Number eight, this was the year of the organ. So I think there's a lot of organ to come in these next couple tunes. I got Many Rivers to Cross from Jimmy Cliff, which just has such a good opening organ part. It's slow building, soul barring, gospel, not even tinged. It's full on gospel from Jimmy Cliff. It's triumphant and inspiring. Cliff does a great lead vocal, and those responding gospel-y backing vocals just bring it all home for me.
Number 8, I've got Whispering Pines by the band. Just a devastating tune, touches of gospel in there. And when Richard Manuel goes up into that falsetto of his, it's over for me. So much pain and heartache in his delivery. And then, Garth Hudson's organ on this track is just remarkable.
So much good organ at 69. Also some pedal steel, and especially on this track, Sin City, my favorite tune from the Flying Burrito Brothers in 1969, Gilded Palace of Sin. Sin City, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to explain why I love it so much. I mean, a lot of it has to do with Sneaky Pete, playing the pedal steel, a Leslie rotating speaker, and it just has this cosmic, power that you don't really find, on any other pedal steel from the era. Just completely different. Underneath that, it's kind of just a country tune played by a bunch of hippies, and it just has like this extra something that country itself couldn't really deliver. Maybe it's just that rock and roll spirit or something. But it's just one of my favorites from the era, from Graham Parsons, from Sneaky Pete. Just the pinnacle of what they did, I think.
My number 7 is Maybe by Janis Joplin, which is a cover of an old soul tune by the Shondells. And Janis just attacks it, totally makes it her own. You got Mike Bloomfield on guitar, and the horns just take it to the next level. It's just like this incredible, super soulful, very live sounding performance.
Number six for me, I'm gonna go with the Beach Boys. Got to get something from the Beach Boys here. Cabin Essence is my flavor of 69 from them. Supposed to be on Smile, one of the many little mini masterpieces that he was working on with Van Dyke Parks. Cabin Essence is just a completely unique sounding track. There's nothing ever that sounds like this. It's a waltz. It has the railroad section where they're all doing this like chanting vocal part, which is like scary sounding. It's just so bizarre. There's banjo buzzing in. There's this great fuzz bass, cello, and then it transitions, kind of like Surf's Up does, into a section about a dam. And it's sort of this, I don't even know how to describe the singing, but it just totally changes everything up, totally changes up the vibe, but it's still Beach Boys. It still has these just incredible, indelible harmonies. And it's got this spirit that they never did again. They never really did anything like this, and nobody did anything like this. So it's just kind of stands out in the year for me.
Okay, last time for the Guess Who. This time going deep cut, an amazing album track from Canned Wheat. I've got Of a Dropping Pin. Just has like this classic 60s pop sound. It reminds me of something that like could have been written by professional songwriters for the Monkees. But the way they do it's amazing. Scorching fuzzed out guitar solo too that just sounds awesome and it's just so catchy.
Okay, only four from the Guess Who this year, as we all expected. My number five, I'm gonna go with Whipping Post from the Allman Brothers. And this song just has it all. I love that seismic, the dun 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 opening riff. So good. The way it dissipates and opens up in that organ part rules. Again, the organ on the song is just some of my favorite playing key work ever. Not just organ, but piano, and any type, harpsichord, clavinet, doesn't matter. The organ on this track just totally rules. Love Dwayne Allman's guitar parts. His solos are amazing. Love the vocals from Greg, just a little gospel influence. The call and response between the vocals and guitars is great. It's just such a big, powerful, meaty Southern rock tune.
Number five, I've got Good Times, Bad Times by Led Zeppelin. And what a way to introduce yourselves. Just an explosion of rock and roll awesomeness. Every member showing why they're there. You got those incredible, like, syncopated kick drum patterns from Bonham and John Paul Jones going off on bass. Jimmy Page's guitar solo is just like incredible. Loose and free, and of course, Plant's vocals are awesome. It's almost like all four of them are soloing the whole time, and somehow it is an incredible song.
My number four, again, the organ. And this is a weird one to have this high up. And I think it's a weird one to like this tune as much as I do. Slash feels similarly, though. Your Time Is Gonna Come, Led Zeppelin. I don't know exactly why I love this one so much. Maybe it's the organ, the intro from John Paul Jones, that grandiose heaven rendering organ intro. Um, Maybe it's, when the song springs to life. I think it's a very earnest, beautiful performance from Robert Plant. There's very little, braggadocio in his singing. Like it feels real. It doesn't feel like a put on. It doesn't feel like, anything really else in their early work where it's a little more, cocky. This feels kind of beautiful and soulful, and Page is following it up with some really nice guitar work on a 10-string steel guitar, which didn't even know that existed, but apparently that's what he used. And then you have John Bonham just hammering away like it's friggin', rock and roll or Black Dog or something. He's just going full on. Everyone else is kind of, you know, holding back a little bit. And it's just sort of like four weird parts um, that don't necessarily work perfectly together, but I think they make it all work.
Four for me, going back to the Beatles, but not going back to Abbey Road. I've got The Ballad of John and Yoko. Just John and Paul on this one, playing basically as a duo. I love the bass line on it, and I think the production on it's really interesting. Some of the guitar sounds and stuff are kind of unusual. And, of course, the autobiographical lyrics. And I think it's just a great performances all around on, by the two of them covering all the instruments.
Number three, gotta go with King Crimson, 21st Century Schizoid Man. Just another proto-metal masterpiece. Uh, you know, I would say proto-prog, but it basically invented prog. It's the first track on In the Court of the Crimson King. And it's just a complex masterpiece. It's got jazz, it's got hard rock, it's got, prog. I love the way they put the distortion on Greg Lake's vocals, and he's just screaming them out, which, it's scary how good it sounds and how powerful it is. It's massive neutron star heavy for 1969, and even when it kind of threatens to get too jazzy after the vocals drop out, the horns are kind of it's getting a little jazzy. You still have this frantic bass line underneath and Fripp's dying animal guitar heroics to keep things spooky and proggy and, grounded and I don't know, not grounded, flying off in space. But it's just a brilliant mess of a song touching a bunch of different genres and pretty much creating prog in its wake.
My number three, viewers of our old Song of the Year series will recognize this as my previous winner. So I've shuffled things around at the top a little. I've got That's the Way God Planned It, parts one and two by Billy Preston. Just a really cool gospel soul track. Uh, you know, I'm not super religious, so subject wise, doesn't make a difference to me too much. But the band on this, Billy Preston, George Harrison, Eric Clapton, Keith Richards on bass, Ginger Baker on drums. It's pretty insane and some of the best guitar work from Clapton that maybe he ever did. So, yeah, definitely stick around for part two for some of that extra flashy playing. If you only listen to the part one, you don't get it all.
Oh, a new winner. That is exciting. Can't wait to see the next two. For me, I got Something at number two, the song Something. So I guess we have one song in common for the whole year. It's good. Um, and I don't know, it's not my favorite guitar solo ever, but it's definitely my favorite Beatles related guitar solo ever. Just beautiful from George Harrison. The whole song is just gorgeous. I think it's his finest love song. I think it's the best love song the Beatles ever wrote. It might be the best bass line Paul McCartney ever wrote. It's just pulsing and delicate and perfect, and it's weaving in and out with Ringo's drumming, which might be the best drumming he's ever done. I think it probably has the best bridge the Beatles ever did. Maybe the best appearance from Billy Preston. It's literally a perfect song, and there's really just one song that could keep this out of the top spot.
Okay, number two for me, going back to back with Clapton and back to back with songs with religious overtones. I've got Presence of the Lord by Blind Faith. Not not a new listen for me during this deep dive. This is a song I've known for a long time, but a song that really just kind of gripped me this past couple months, and been listening to it a lot and playing along to it, and yeah, I just think it's amazing. One of, if not my very favorite, Steve Winwood vocal performance, and then it erupts into some of Clapton's most fiery guitar work. So yeah, it's a great track.
Well, didn't see that coming. Two Clapton songs, at least guest appearances. Well, no, it was part of Blind Faith, so that's interesting. It's funny how these things end up. My number one though is As It Was back in the '69 Song of the Year series. I still got to go with "Give Me Shelter" by the Rolling Stones is my favorite of the year. It's the sound of the death of the peace and love '60s. It's just so menacing. That guitar intro from Keith, just, it's not like it's some ominous, like minor key. It's just kind of this bluesy riff that keeps repeating. And it has this power to it. It's a little mysterious. You don't really know where the song is going to go. And then it just drops like a roller coaster in this dense, apocalyptic, heavy song. There's just no good feelings. There's no happiness, joy. That's just sucked out like a black hole. And you get Mary Clayton just dropping the hammer with her little, backup vocals, just searing cry to the heavens for the ages stuff here. And the band's fantastic. Keith and Mick and everybody just sound great on it, and they kill it, and they kill peace and love. But I love the song regardless.
Well, during the album video, I said that this is an album of high highs, and I meant it. It is my song of the year. I've got Helplessly Hoping by Crosby, Stills, and Nash, which might seem like a surprise to people, but if you go back and check out the 69 Songs of the Year video, even in that one, I do say that this was in consideration for my top spot. So yeah, it's a song I've loved, maybe not always, um, but I've always been aware of it. And I think uh, I saw, I can't even remember. I think it was like the River Wireless or some random group perform it at Newport like a decade ago, and their performance of it blew me away and has just made this song kind of stick in my mind even more since then. And it's just unreal. The harmonies are so good. It's just like some of the most heavenly singing that I think has ever been recorded. Uh, Beautifully written, really good song, but it's just about that vocal blend. It just sounds so good.
I do have one caveat for this whole thing, and that is I don't know if people are going to do this and package the whole Abbey Road suite as one song, but I didn't. I don't think that's right. So
Yeah, it's not, I don't think it's right
I
either.
didn't do that. If it was considered one song, it would probably be my number one, but I don't consider it one song, so I can't do it.
Yeah, no, I don't. That's tough,
It is
tricky.
tough. I don't know.
If it was, yeah, I don't know where it's lots. It probably wouldn't make my list, but it wouldn't be far outside of it. All right, let us know what songs we missed, what your list is. Drop that all in the comments. Still going to keep telling people about the record that we have for sale for a little while longer. Tastes Like Records. We have started a label. We've got a record by Nordista Freeze for sale. You can get the vinyl from our website. It will be streaming Friday, so I'm not sure when is coming out, but very soon, probably. So give it a listen if you like it. It would support us greatly for you to purchase one. And yeah, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.